Hello everybody, CritCrab here with another story, this one about an angry edgelord that rage quit out of his group all of 3 times. Now, before we get into this video, I would like to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor. Last Ark Tactics Analog is a tactical D20 based TTRPG with a bit of a JRPG spin on it that uses talent trees instead of fixed class progression to allow the player to make their character into whatever they want. Now, in case you're wondering why I'm so pumped about this game is, they promised us an official crab summon in the bestiary, so please, after this video ends, click the link in the description and check these guys out. You won't regret it. Anyways, future game nights aside, roll post. This is the first story in a long saga of bad GMing and playing performed by a legend in our local community. A story of pain, embarrassment, cringe, and outright creepy stuff that became a meme and a synonym for everything bad in TTRPGs between all the people involved and our friends. A tale of a guy that I will call Creep for the entirety of 3 to 4 stories I'm about to share in the nearest future. We start with a story set in the Elder Scrolls setting, one of my most beloved fantasy worlds in which I have always wanted to roleplay, so when I got an invitation from GM, it was a no-brainer. All of the players seemed highly involved and experienced, and considering the fact that I was desperate for an RP-heavy game with people that knew what they were doing, this one was perfect in every way possible. The events of the campaign were supposed to take place in Morrowind sometime before the story of a game of the same name. I already knew the game master, a good fellow of mine. At the time we were playing together in another setting, DM'd by Creep, which is a tale for another day. I will just say that it wasn't that bad at times in question, but it would inevitably become a horror story material on its own much later. We played online in Discord and Roll20, using a homebrew The Elder Scrolls add-on for D&D 5e. So here are our main heroes. GM, a really chill guy, pretty interesting to hang out with. Met him on a World of Warcraft game sometime before. His road of GMing has only begun, but he was showing a lot of potential already. He took his role very earnestly, working his hardest to provide us with a good story and gameplay. Me, a young dark elf warrior from House Redoran on a quest to hunt down necromancers that defile his ancestral crypt. Eager to prove himself to the living gods of Morrowind and his higher-ups, he was all about honor, family, comradeship, and traditions. Tez, an Argonian rogue and a mercenary that has seen the horrors of war. His voice acting was so good it made me ecstatic. He was the one that inspired me to work on my RP in the future. Otherwise, a very serious and rather helpful individual both in-game and out of it. He acted as a voice of reason in the group for the most part. Torgrim, a Nord barbarian, also a great voice actor. He sounds exactly how you would expect a Viking to sound, just gorgeous. His character was actively seeking work to provide for his family in Skyrim. Out of game, he was rather funny and nerdy in the best way. Our characters quickly became friends with a lot of mutual respect involved. Creep, an edgelord albino dark elf named Fëanor. Yes, that Fëanor. This is the only description I can give because there was none on behest of the player. No motivation, no backstory, nothing at all, except a typical nihilistic outlook on everything. As for the player himself, well, he was odd. He was a weeaboo of the weird kind with all sorts of strange preferences. He also wouldn't shut up about how deep and complex his own stories and characters are and how he's a master when it comes to the Elder Scrolls lore. I knew him as a GM for a while, and I knew his stories kind of sucked, but I was more than willing to let him show his playing skills with no ill intent and bad expectations. I joined the game only on the 3rd session, so the events of the first 2 were told to me by the rest of my comrades later on. It is important to note that while me and GM were discussing my character sometime between these 2 sessions, I overheard a quarrel between him and Creep. GM was dissatisfied that Creep didn't have any backstory at all and asked him very kindly to write at least something, to which Creep grudgingly replied with, "What's the point of a written backstory, duh?" He then proceeded with 2 sentences of random generic information that his character was an outcast and a hired assassin with an oh-so-dark and tragic past, and that was it. This was the first and the last time I have ever heard anything useful RP-wise about his character. Note that the campaign was already ongoing, with his character as a part of it. It didn't really bother me that time, as a lack of backstory is not a bad thing on its own. Some good players can invent their own unique and interesting personalities during the game, while already existent information only slows their imagination down. These are a few, but I know a couple, so I decided to give Creep a chance and a benefit of the doubt. God, I was wrong. So, let us begin. Session 1. Tez, Torgrim, and Creep are being hired by a Dark Elven noble to investigate a rather unfortunate event. A mineshaft nearby, owned by this noble's brothers, stopped their weekly deliverings of ore and ceased doing their normal mining schedules. Workers were all stationed outside the mine, with mercenary guards not allowing anyone inside with no explanation whatsoever. Said brother refused to comment on this matter, and our employer is pretty worried. He tells the party that he will pay a good bounty if we do a little inquiry. He also tells us that it's an unofficial task, so we are expected to not break any laws while performing our duty. That means no stealing, or at least not being caught while doing so, no killing, and no illegal activities. I guess you all know where this is going, right? After taking the mission, party gets to know each other on their way to the mine. Argonian and Nord immediately begin sharing their experience and overall being friendly to each other as they are now colleagues. But when both of them try to make contact with edgy Dark Elf, he always replies with the same phrase. He looks at you with his emotionless, doll-like eyes and does not say anything. Yeah, stereotypical Edgelord stuff. So after a couple of failed attempts to speak, both of them give up, hoping that he's going to open up a bit later. When they finally reach the mine, they see a miners' camp outside and a lot of guards doing their usual activities. After asking around a bit, they find out that nobody is ready to share yet, and security stationed in front of the entrance refuses to let them in because there was some kind of accident involving a collapse and a rockfall. They are clearly lying, and you can tell, so the party gets together to work on a plan. Tez: don't worry, we will work this out. I think we should talk to the miners, maybe offer them some gold to give us some actually useful information, if not about what happened, then at least how we can get inside without provoking the guards. What do you think? Torgrim: a good idea indeed. I can also make a scene to draw attention so you will be able to sneak inside to do a quick reconnaissance. Should be easy enough. Feanor, any good ideas? Creep: Feanor looks at you with his doll-like eyes and does not answer. Tez: okay, let's hope that if you don't have a plan to share, you can at least follow one. So I'm going to talk to the miners about. Creep: GM, I walk up to one of the guards stationed in front of the entrance. GM: okay. He repeats himself that they won't allow you in because they have orders to. Creep: I draw my dagger and stab him in the liver. Rolls to attack. GM: okay, you do that. You just want to injure him, or? Creep: I kill him. Tez: what? But our employer. Creep: I try to slit the next guy's throat. So Creep's character starts to murder everyone, miner and guard alike, carving his way to the mine despite the protests of his party and GM reminding him that he has just failed their main task of not breaking the law. So much for an unofficial mission. Tez and Torgrim are forced to join the fight as remaining guards think that they are Creep's accomplices and attack them in turn. After murdering half of the camp, but leaving a lot of witnesses, as Creep doesn't care if anyone knows of his atrocities, they descend into the ruins. That's where the first session ends. Session 2. Tez and Torgrim confront Creep about what has just happened. They tell him that they are not going to help him next time, condemning his methods and calling him out on failing their task. They're all outlaws now because of his masterful performance. To which Creep replies with, he looks at you with his doll-like eyes and does not seem to care. Then his character runs off into the dark tunnels of the mineshaft without giving any kind of explanation both in character and out of it. When confronted by the players, he just says that they don't get his ingenious concept at all and that was their problem. Tez and Torgrim rush forward to catch up with a newborn murder hobo to prevent him from doing anything else stupid, burying them ever deeper in problems. The mine happens to be overrun by strange creatures made from ebonite, resembling statues that came to life for some unknown reason. After a proper planned combat encounter, they fight their way into the miners' barracks deep inside the tunnels. Unfortunately, Creep's character doesn't die despite fighting alone. He ignores almost all the creatures, leaving them to his comrades to fend off. When he breaks in the barracks, he comes face to face with a guard, surprised to see a stranger down here. And then Creep's character decides to talk to him about what is going on in this. Just joking. He tries to murder him too without asking a word. But Guard manages to escape to the armory, closing the door shut. When the rest of the party try to get inside too, they find this psycho trying to break through the door with a pickaxe to kill whoever is there. Torgrim gets enough of this. He asks GM if he could not creep out with the handle of his great axe without hurting him too much. He only wants to stop him from his murderous rampage and see if he could talk to him one more time afterwards. Unfortunately, he misses. Immediately after this failed attempt to stun Creep's character, the latter turns around and attacks Barbarian with full force, aiming to kill him too. He manages to get a good attack throw, activating some kind of class ability, damaging Nord even harder, after which an already wounded PC drops on the floor with Creep's dagger stuck in his stomach. Still living, but unable to fight anymore. This is the end of the second session. Third session, the last one for Creep. I joined the game during this one. My character enters Daedric ruins from the other side after overhearing a rumor that there is an active necromancer in the vicinity. It doesn't take a genius to figure out where he will hang out to perform his disgusting studies. As things turn out, miners accidentally broke into that ancient ruins only to face their current inhabitants. It is important to say that just before the session I caught GM kindly asking Creep to work things out with Torgrim. Nobody wanted a PC murdered, except for Creep, because, as he said, Nord was asking for it. He finally agreed not to kill him, but only if his character pleaded for mercy with the most humble approach. It was fine by Torgrim. I guess he didn't want to hurt the party that was already falling apart. GM had other plans, luckily. I didn't want to see Nord begging this freak for forgiveness. When game finally starts, Creep describes how he is readying himself to finish Torgrim while Tez is too far to help. But suddenly, the door that is currently behind him opens abruptly, kicking him prone. A guard fully decked in armor steps forward from the armory, putting his boot on Creep's neck. Tez then proceeds to heal his wounded comrade with a potion. Guard, looking at Creep. Who the hell are you and what are you doing down here? Creep, once again, stays completely silent. Guard, if you try to do anything funny again, I swear I'm going to kill you right here, right now. Immediately, Creep tries to pick up his sword in honor to hit Guard's leg with it, but fails miserably this time. Guard kicks his sword far away and says, "Are you also deaf? I said if you try anything stupid, I will end your life." To make a point, he shows a cutting gesture across his neck. Creep, like an idiot he is, says he casts a fear spell or some such nonsense from his ability list. I still don't remember what class he played. And, hilariously enough, it only works on Nord, that is already unable to do anything. Guard shrugs his shoulder and proceeds to kick Edgelord's face repeatedly with his heavy soldier's boot. The latter says his first and last phrase in 3 sessions. Creep, I wonder how your entrails look like. Guard knocks him out right after this. Too bad he didn't kill him that time. Would have saved us a lot of time and nerves. It is an online game, but you can tell that Creep is reeking of rage at this point. Apparently, this isn't his fault at all, but he stays silent for the most part, only rarely throwing extremely passive-aggressive commentaries. When other party members try to explain themselves to the guard, luckily he doesn't know what happened above the ground, I hear a disconnect sound within our Discord channel. This is the first rage quit on the behest of Creep, but not the last one for the day. Things are about to get much more interesting. Ready yourselves. So Tez and Torgrim manage to calm the guard down, justly blaming Creep for everything that happened. They tie him up as hard as they possibly can and leave him lying on a couch. GM is happy that after almost 3 sessions of murdering, party can finally see and have an RP conversation between PCs and NPCs. Guard tells them that, indeed, there was a rockfall, but the consequences are much worse than just a minor accident. They broke in the ancient ruins, overrun by those ebonite statues. He has his orders to stay put and wait for further instructions, but it is well above his pay grade, so he is planning to go AWOL, after taking some useful martial equipment with him. Sometime during this dialogue, Creep returns to the channel to be informed by GM that he is tied up. He starts thinking of a way to get out. Then, after a minute of mumbling, he demands to throw an agility check with an advantage because, quote, I was a slave once and I should know how to escape in a situation like this. The table goes silent. GM. Dude, you never wrote a backstory. Creep. I told you a backstory, remember? So I should throw this check with an advantage. GM. No, I will not allow that. You can make a regular check, though. Creep is getting annoyed again. Creep. Can I make an escape artist check with a bonus at least? Tez. There is no such thing as a separate escape artist skill in D&D 5e. Creep. But my character was a slave! Tez just starts to make fun of him at this point because it's not possible to take his character seriously anymore. Tez. Shouldn't you make an edgy, doll-like eyes skill check or something? Creep creates an escape artist skill in his character sheet for some godforsaken reason and insists on making a check with it. GM. Dude, no. Make an acrobatics check or an agility check, whatever suits you. If you do want a separate skill, you should have asked me between the sessions. Creep, furious as all hell, makes an agility check without a well-deserved advantage for the non-existent backstory, but fails again. Yeah, karma is a thing apparently. Creep then proceeds with the following while cursing like a sailor after every failed check. Creep. GM, I want to pull a poison needle from a hidden compartment in the collar with my teeth. Tez. You didn't say you have any. GM, does he have those needles in his inventory? While GM is trying to check his character sheet, Creep writes them down in his backpack. He is lying and it's obvious, but GM is unsure yet and lets it roll. Creep. I pull a poisoned needle and try to spit it at the guard. God, he really wants to kill him so badly for some reason, despite the other party members are able to notice it and take actions. But when he tries to do so, he rolls a natural 1. Karma truly exists, doesn't it? GM. When you try to launch the needle, you feel a bitter taste of poison in your mouth. It is so sickening that you start to cough, drawing attention. The needle falls on the floor where everyone can see it. Creep. No, I do not cough. It's not how poison works. GM. You do. You rolled a critical failure. Creep. No, I don't. This is my character, and I know better how he reacts to such a thing. GM. Pal, you rolled a nat 1. That means that whatever your character was planning to do, he fails it miserably. That's why you coughed. Don't you know what a critical failure is? Creep starts to curse again, blaming Dice, GM, and everyone else, except his own stupid actions like trying to take a poisoned object in his mouth. He is lucky he hasn't swallowed it. Wouldn't have been funny. Tez and Torgrim proceed to search him thoroughly, throwing away everything he has in his inventory on the floor. Then Tez puts a gag in his mouth so he does not try anything alike, to which, I kid you not, Creep replies, How do you put a gag in my mouth if I have a leather mask on my face? I just blow up at this point saying, then how did you pull a needle with your teeth from your collar and tried to spit it when you had the same mask you have mentioned on your face? He never answered my question. What follows is a second disconnect sound from our channel. We take a brief pause because the level of cringe is so unimaginable that we need a moment of silence. We all think that it is finally over for him and he will never return to the session. It was the first time I saw a player like him in action. Party then finishes a dialogue with the guard, after which he leaves to escape the mines, giving us some clues on where the breach between the mining tunnels and Daedric ruins is. Right before Creep returns once again, after cooling himself down and accepting his fate as a prisoner. Or that's what we think. Tez tries for the last and final time to talk with his character. Tez, taking Creep's gag off, Listen, I don't know who you are and why you are doing what you are doing, but I offer you the last chance to make things right between us. You help us get through the Daedra ruins and find the one guilty of attacking the mines with his army of horrors. If we do this, maybe we could at least make our employer forget an incident that you have created. And then, after all this madness is finally over, we will walk in different directions, never to meet again. Torgrim and I will forget anything happened. Or, you can try to attack us once again, and we will use you as bait for the traps in those ruins, and then bring you to justice. Think about it. What shall it be? Creep. He looks at you silently with his doll-like eyes while being completely silent. Tez, you've made your choice. I'm going to put the gag back. Trap bait it is. So the guy literally ignores his last chance to be a legit member of the party. describing out of character that Feanor is so angry at everyone right now and how he is going to slowly murder other PCs while enjoying it. Period. So the party enters the dungeon with the special murderous snowflake on their leash. He tries to escape here and there, but always fails in one way or another. The party have learned their lesson. At one point, my character and the rest of the party stumble across one another in the halls of antiquity. Me. Who goes there? Show yourself. Torgrim, emerging from the dark corridor, holding his weapon at the ready. And who are you exactly? You don't look like those obsidian monstrosities. Me. I am Drynar, of House Redoran, sent here to purge these ruins of necromancer filth. And you are not the manling I'm looking for, as I see. Tez. A necromancer? That explains things. We came here through the mine to find the source of plague that stalks these halls. Me. I have already found his laboratory near the entrance, so I'm sure he's still here somewhere. After a brief conversation, I find out that our tasks are the same and we decide to combine our efforts. Considering the fact that all of us are pretty beaten up at this point, and an unexpected ally is more than just welcome. During our dialogue, Creep rushes forward to reach my character. He then proceeds to show me his tattoo, that my character immediately recognizes. A Morag Tong tattoo. That is an organization of assassins. Note that Morag Tong is actually a thing in Morrowind, but they have a strict code of rules, one of which is the fact that they can't just go around murdering everyone they see. To legally assassinate someone, you need an official contract on your hands to show it to any existent justice systems. Then, and only then, can you kill someone without the danger of being prosecuted for your crime of killing only the person that is mentioned in your certified contract. Creep, a self-proclaimed lore master, should have known that. Of course, there is no contract in his backpack to justify his spree of senseless murder. I still really don't get why he tried to befriend my character with this information. We were both dark elves, but my law-abiding and strict warrior from a rather knightly house didn't have any reason to help another dark elf, which was a complete and utter psychopath, breaking not only Morrowind laws, but the laws of his own organizations. After my character asks who the hell this guy is and why do these mercs have a tied-up assassin on their hands, he gets a full explanation. Creep tries to escape one more time, kicking Nord in the stomach with his knee while saying edgy things out of character when the realization that I'm not going to help his sorry psychotic butt finally comes to his delusioned mind. Bonded or no, he tries his hardest to murder the wounded Nord as his last gift, stomping him with his boots. Turns out my Dunmer has a couple of extra ropes to spare in his backpack. A good old kick sends the Edgelord on the floor. After tying him up with yet another layer of bonds, my character says that Creep is going to answer for his madness and that he will see through it personally when the mission is finished. And then Creep, spitting poison and curses, leaves once again. This time for good as GM proceeds to permanently ban him from the server, and we played happily ever after. The end. P.S. This was my first and only encounter with a true murder hobo that I never knew existed in reality. I always thought that it was just a term to describe a PC that don't RP but prefer the old-fashioned way of violence rather than reason. But this guy just wanted everyone dead, including other PCs, and tried his hardest to get anyone he could just because. After his final session, Creep exploded with vitriol and told us that we are the ones that are stupid as we are all too dumb to understand this deep and complex Edgelord PC. Please, for the love of God, if you want to play a psychopath, don't forget that you are playing in a group. This is a collective game. If no one is having fun except you, that means you are doing it wrong. End post. Sometimes, the trash takes itself out. It's also always unsettling when I hear about a DM doing things in another person's game that they would absolutely freak out over if someone did it in theirs. Unfortunately, some people are just like that. It has been said in the past, and I will say it again, D&D and TRPGs in general are group activities, and if your character isn't willing to work with the group, rather than against it, there is no reason for you to be there that an NPC villain can't do better. That aside, I'm very proud to say that this story came from our very own subreddit, so a huge thank you to Dr. Arby for sharing this story. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories just like this one. Till next time.